Hello and welcome wherever you're listening in from. This is Carol May Whittick with Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. So this week, I'm talking about intuition. How do you validate your voice? We cannot deny that there's a divide in society right now, and it's more pronounced than before. Well, one of the main divides seems to be those who can see that the narrative does not necessarily align with truth, and those are completely oblivious to it and are back to life as normal can be. The people who are sitting on the side of knowing that things aren't what they look like or appear to be, at some point in time, whether it was just over the past couple of years or people who have been aware of the alternative narrative or the so-called conspiracies from 10, 20, 30 years, even beyond that, they delved into this because there was a knowing, there would have been something at some point in time where what they were being told was at odds with what they felt about what they were being told. They could see that something was different. That basically stems from your intuition. This week is an exploration of intuition. What is it? Why is it important to develop? How do we recognize we're listening to our intuition? How can we trust the voice and the feeling and the awareness that we're having? So I'll share with you a little bit about how I came to discover and trust my own intuition. And also I'll bring you writings that speak about intuition, things that may inspire and help you. Also at the end, there will be a guided transformational breathing practice. And this one this week is called Expansion, and this is for spiritual growth, energy, peace, and tranquility. So I'm starting with using a logical definition to describe something that is not logical. So let's start there. From the Merriam-Webster definition of intuition is power or faculty of attaining direct knowledge or cognition without evident rational thought and inference, or an immediate apprehension or cognition. And then I wanted to take a quote from an author called Sylvia Clare, Trusting Your Intuition, Rediscover Your True Self to Achieve a Richer, More Rewarding Life. One of the things that I really like the way that she's broken down is intuition means exactly what it sounds like. Intuition, an inner tutor or teaching, and learning mechanism that takes us forward daily. It is a resource that, where recognized, has infinite potential. We all have intuition. It's not something that is granted in greater capacity to more people and lesser to others. It's just whether you actually plug into it and use it. It's one of those things that the more that you use, the greater it will grow. The more you can trust it. How do you get there? How can you trust your intuition? How can you develop it? It's a use it or lose it situation. So to bring in some personal experience, and this might kind of resonate with you on some levels when you're thinking about whether you can trust your intuition or not. I've always known to trust my inner voice from being a songwriter, and I started writing songs when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, very basic ones, and then going on to developing more structured songs with lyrics, because they would always come to me in a moment when I wasn't necessarily sitting down and trying to get something to come out at that particular time. If anything, to be honest, I rarely would sit down and just write lyrics from top to bottom. Now and again I would, but my ideas would always come when I'd be doing something else. And that's how I developed that trust in having something come in that was a little voice, and it's always very small and it seems very distant initially. What it was for me is to actually kind of grab it. It's almost like a something that's a smoke in the air, and it's almost to reach out and hold my hand over it and grab it and bring it in and create it, make it tangible, so then it's able to be shared. And I see intuition as the same kind of thing. It's kind of a wispy, ethereal, distant thing. But as you start to rely on it more, it becomes stronger, or you just recognize it for what it is. There's been many occasions, probably more so in the past than now, but this had to happen to me on multiple occasions before I got the gist of me being warned of situations or people way ahead of time and me not going with what I was feeling. I can think of one instance when I went to visit an apartment. This is, gosh, it'd be like 20, 30 years ago now. And it was beautiful. And I ended up moving in there. I ended up moving in there with a flatmate at the time. But one thing that I really remember about that is one of the days when I went to view, and I was on my own with the estate agent, and I was in the back of the car and I was eating a bunch of grapes. As we're driving from the office to the apartment, I just remember having a really terrible cramping my stomach. It just didn't make any sense, this pain in my stomach, and I felt awful. It just didn't make any sense. And from then on, it was just this feeling of like feeling ill, like nauseous, and all I was eating were grapes, and there was nothing wrong with them. But I couldn't work out what it was about, why suddenly being in this car and going to this apartment and everything looked beautiful, that I should feel so bad. Interestingly, within, I would say, 2 days of moving into that apartment, I got really ill. I got so ill and I lost so much weight that I was ill on, I remember just lying on the sofa and not being able to walk. I was so dehydrated and underfed, malnourished, because I couldn't keep anything down or in. And I lost so much weight that just even walking was a problem. I'd look at my face in the mirror and I could see my eyeballs literally looking like balls in my head. So that happened. And then the whole tenancy was just a disaster, and it ended really badly. And I had a feeling prior to that, like I said, before we even signed anything, that it wasn't a good thing. But these were like early days. The only way that I used to trust that knowing was because I was using it for creativity and not necessarily using it as a heads up for a situation that isn't going to work out so well. Since then, I've known to, when I encounter people, and this is the hard thing I think for people, is you meet people and you get a sense, but everything looks great and everyone else thinks it's great, but you just get a sense and you know. And time just always reveals what it is. I know now to trust my intuition. It comes to me in many different ways. It will be a sense. Sometimes it will just be a feeling. I know if I'm going into certain places or trying to extend, like most recent times I've had it with work that I've been doing, that I know the time for me to not it's time to kind of cut the thread on that, because every time I try and go there, it's almost like the air becomes like treacle. Just the whole thing of trying to get there is terrible. I have to really work up my mood to just kind of get my head straight. I've taken that as a sign too that needs to be cut loose. And I had to make the decision on that because I was holding on like, is this the right thing to do? And the minute that I made the decision and decided that it was cut, opportunity just came from the opposite side. It was me kind of trusting in it, and for me to just trust that I was being shown something, and I had to literally make that commitment that was over. It just literally, I got rewarded instantly, because my concerns and the reason I was holding on to it was fear. And when I let go of that fear of it being something necessary, then I just got rewarded on the other side. So It's a leap, but sometimes you have to really trust your intuition. And there's so many different ways we talk about intuition. Mothers' intuitions. Women know that their children are ill, whether they're there or not. That intuition, that feeling that someone's in danger, or someone needs to hear your voice, or when you reach out and they've just been thinking of you, that knowing, that intuition, that gut feeling that we have, or we call it spider senses or inner knowing. We just need to recognize what our intuition feels like, and maybe think about instances in the past where you've just known something. You've known a situation was good or bad. You've known a person was for you or not for you, or a job or something that you had no evidence of, and probably counter to common sense. Either you followed through or you didn't follow through, but you remember the sensation or what was going through your mind at the moment that gave you that heads up. So let's have a look at some other quotations that I felt were really inspiring, and just to kind of dig into what intuition is and everyone's different take on intuition. Firstly, I thought this was interesting. From Bill Hicks, the comedian. Watching television is like taking black spray paint to your third eye. Do we need to go into that one? I mean, we are in these days aware that what is coming out of the television isn't really for us, isn't really helping us. And it gives you such a narrow band view. It doesn't even open you up to possibilities. So it kind of will poo-poo any ideas that may be considered woo. So I just thought that was interesting to throw in there. But let's really look at people speaking about intuition. From Dean Koontz, intuition is seeing with the soul. From Albert Einstein, I believe in intuitions and inspirations. I sometimes feel that I am right. I do not know that I am. And I think the knowing is really about the head, and we're trying to be logical about whether what we're seeing, what we're being told, makes sense by putting our head in it. Whereas if we go into that feeling space, whether that's just a sense energetically or from our heart, intuition just never lies, and it does get stronger. And from Roy T. Bennett, you will never follow your own inner voice until you clear up the doubts in your mind. Our bodies have 5 senses: touch, smell, taste, sight, hearing. But not to be overlooked are the senses of our souls: intuition, peace, foresight, trust, empathy. The differences between people lie in their use of these senses. Most people don't know anything about the inner senses, while a few people rely on them just as they rely on their physical senses, and in fact, probably more. And to inject personal confirmation around that, now that I work almost solely on my intuition when it comes to being guided, it's never doing me wrong. The only thing I would say that I need not do about my intuition is discuss it, is to never really share those thoughts about what I'm feeling or what I'm being guided to do with people who don't see the world that way, because it's a fragile piece of information. It's very private to you. Even with somebody who would be your most intimate partner, they may know you really well, but they can never, that's one area that they can never really infiltrate or know. Intuition is always right in at least 2 important ways. It is always in response to something. It always has your best interest at heart. Gavin de Becker. The gift of fear, survival signs that protect us from violence. From Clarissa Pinkola Estes from Women Who Run with the Wolves. Practice listening to your intuition, your inner voice. Ask questions, be curious. See what you see, hear what you hear, and then act upon what you know to be true. These intuitive powers are given to your soul at birth. And to Go back to the book by Sylvia Clare, Trusting Your Intuition. Rediscover your true self to achieve a richer, more rewarding life. She delves a little bit more into intuition. Intuition comes in several forms: a sudden flash of insight, visual or auditory, a predictive dream, a spinal shiver of recognition as something is occurring or told to you, a sense of knowing something already, a sense of déjà vu, a snapshot image of a future scene or event, knowledge, perspective, or understanding divined from tools which respond to the subconscious mind. And there's a song that it's a pop song from my school days. So we're talking a long time ago. So it's not something that gets played very often. Every now and again, I will hear it. And just to kind of reference what the situation that I was talking about earlier, when I was going through this real sense of having to make a break and walk away from a situation, and I was going around it in my mind and trying to be like sensible and all this kind of stuff, I went onto Instagram and I was scrolling and this song came up. So this song is called Breakout by Swing Out Sister. I don't even know if it was popular anywhere other than in the UK. When I've heard this song, it always left a great impression on me because I just loved it as a song. Everyone loved it. It was like a really happy, boppy song. When you actually go into the lyrics, it's really inspiring if you take it on board. And I've heard this song at certain pivotal moments of life where I'll walk into a shop and it would be playing. And this time it was on an Instagram post, and it was bizarre that it was there, but it just kind of was timely because I'm like, there's that song again. The main chorus of it is, the time has come to make or break. Move on, don't hesitate, break out. Don't stop to ask, and now you've found a break to make it last. You've got to find a way, say what you want to say, break out. When situations never change, tomorrow looks unsure. Don't leave your destiny to chance. What are you waiting for? The time has come to make your break. It never fails to just kind of take the wind out of my sails, just because it's got happy memories, but also because it always just seems to turn up when it needs to turn up. So that confirmation that you need might come in a song, or you might open a newspaper and there'll be just some words that jump out. I've heard of people who are in bookshops and a book will fall off the shelf and open at a certain page, and suddenly they're reading something, or a stranger, somebody that you've never met, and you'll just have a conversation and they'll just give you what you need. So intuition is, there's no logic. Stop looking for logic for it, because it doesn't happen that way. But then when you actually start to piece the bits together, if you're out there in the question of waiting for guidance and just looking for a little bit of confirmation, and in that question it always shows up. But when it came to thinking about creating this podcast, I just knew. I just got literally told exactly what I needed to do about it. It wasn't difficult to do in terms of I wasn't struggling for ideas. I had to work around it a few times just to kind of really get it tight, but I kind of knew what it was, and it came to me on a walk. I'm really enjoying walking more because I find that just being in that non-focused place, so I'm not sitting at a desk kind of tapping a pencil on a blank sheet, waiting for something to fall out the sky. I'm doing something else. Taking a shower works for some people, housework, anything where you're very relaxed is when it can come to you. And I'll close the quotes with another one from Sylvia Clare. Open your thoughts to the probability that you are more intuitive than you realize. So ways that you can tap into your inner knowing. How can you develop your intuition? Meditation, being in silence, I find is perfect. I'm one of those people who hears so much more when there's no noise than when there is noise. Whether it's meditation or whether it's just sitting and just not having anything on, no sound. It's impossible when you live in a town or city to be in complete silence, but these sounds are not local to you. They become part of the atmosphere. They're not intrusive. So if someone is barking a dog or driving a car or revving a motorbike that's in the distance somewhere, it doesn't become a distraction. It just becomes part of what's there. And just to sit and just to allow any tension to fall away and then just see what comes in. A lot of the time initially, especially for people who are starting to meditate or developing that trust in their intuition, a lot of everything is going to come up. You're going to think about what you need to eat, things that you haven't done, conversations that you need to, everything will come into your mind. And then, but allow it, because these things are there. So let them work themselves around. And after a while, you'll start to hear what your intuition sounds like to you. I don't even know if mine is my voice, if that makes sense. It's just like a dump, a download, that a lot of people will say. It's interesting. I wouldn't be able to explain it to someone to say that it sounds like me. I have had experiences where I've had voices that sound like me, but that on the whole, my intuition is a voice that's voiceless. That makes sense, huh? Take a chance on following your gut instinct. So if you get a sense that you should do something or give it a quick exit, maybe try that and see what happens as a result. Whether you take the initiative to follow that prompt will kind of give you an idea as to whether what you were listening to was for you or was just a thought or an opinion. Because sometimes we kind of get, when we're kind of working out what our intuition is, whether we can trust our intuition, I think a lot of the time personal opinion and bias can come in the way. Spending time in nature I find very inspiring. Sitting on a park bench and just gazing, people watching, just being of no mind really, not feeling that you have to do or go anywhere, can bring a great amount of insight and the ability for you to hear your voice or your intuition or feel what your intuition is like. You can also be in the question again and then just look out for clues and see what comes up. Like I said, it can come in so many different ways. I've got that song that comes to me sometimes. Sometimes it will be a conversation that I have with someone and then they'll answer a question. Something pops up on social media. The clues are around us all the time, and it's just being open to it being that we're in a partnership and we're being guided all the time. And then you can feel less lonely and less confused about things. Journaling is really great as well. It's great to kind of get thoughts out. And if you get to that point where you're just allowing your pen to write all the kind of jumble that comes out of your mind, whether first thing in the morning, last thing at night, somewhere in between, without trying to make your writing pretty or any kind of formed sentences or sense, it's interesting what can come through. I would say the only problem I personally have with that is sometimes my writing is so atrocious that I can't go back and unpick what it is that I wrote. But many an interesting lyric or thought has come from just doing some free form writing. So before we go to the meditation, I saw this very interesting meme online somewhere. People might have mixed thoughts about dimensions, the 3D world, the 5D world, the fifth dimension, all that kind of stuff. That aside, I just thought there was an interesting point in the middle of what this was saying. Why am I losing my memory? Because you are leaving the 3D world. And if 3D world doesn't resonate with you, just think we're changing the way that we are in the world. Where consciousness is shifting. And although it feels like everything is kind of going dark and breaking down, it's just an expose on anything that we can potentially move past. You're leaving the 3D world where one uses memory in order to know something. And if we think of the way that the education system has been, it's very much about memorization and regurgitation, and that has been the way that intelligence has been gauged. And now you're heading for the 5th dimension, so a higher place of consciousness where knowing is the way to operate. And your memory is disappearing to encourage you to use your ability to respond intuitively. It is time now to simply know what you need to know in every given moment. Losing your memory is a positive happening. It affects all age groups. So what I would take from that is just imagine if we all worked from intuition as opposed to the logic side and kind of going back into the files and the stores of what we know and what we've been taught at, where our memory has kept our knowledge and our intelligence and our logic intact, and going to the part where we're using that different sense, that intuitive sense. Now, before I hand over to the meditation, I just want to say thank you again for listening. And if you want to reach out to me, you can do so in a number of different ways. You can find me on Instagram as Kazmick, Cazmick. My website is carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaewhittick.com. I'm on Facebook under Carol May Whittick, on Telegram, Her Conversations Inspirations, and you can also email me info@carolmaywhittick.com. So until the next episode, enjoy this meditation. Our expansion reminds us of our union with universal consciousness, intuitive knowledge and love, where everything is possible. We are supported, allowing ourselves to be and releasing the need to do. We easily observe ourselves, our reactions and our emotions, and can therefore appreciate and respect the journey of those in our lives and honour the choices they make, recognizing that all is well. This practice is Om chanting or Ugdith Pranayama. Om is the sacred sound of the divine and represents the sound of the universe. The chanting of Om connects us to this energy. It is beneficial for spiritual growth. It fills our body with energy, peace, and tranquility. The solfeggio frequency is 963 Hz, which takes us to the highest plane of consciousness and connects us with the perfection of the universe. Find yourself in a seated position. You can be sitting on a chair or cross-legged on the ground. And just welcome relaxation into your entire body. During this practice, we will be vocalizing, chanting the word Om. Om itself is broken down into 3 parts: Ah, Oo, and And with each recitation of Om, we will take a deep diaphragmatic breath and move the Ah, the Oo, and the up through the body. To explain, when we chant Ah, we'll experience the vibration around your navel and abdomen area, and this vibrates the lower chakras. We can try 3 times just to demonstrate. You should feel the vibration in the lower part of your body around your navel and abdominal area. Oo is pronounced as oo, and when you chant oo, you'll experience the vibration in and around your chest cavity, activating the middle chakras. To demonstrate. Ooh. Is pronounced as When you chant you'll experience the vibration in and around your throat and in your head and your upper chakras. To demonstrate. Each will be done on a single breath. We'll take in a deep diaphragmatic breath down to the body. And as you pronounce each syllable, the ah, the oo, the you will exhale and also imagine and envisage the energy moving up through the body and through the chakras. We'll practice this for 10 rounds. Breathe in. And let's practice another 10 rounds to close this session. This time I will take the pace just a little bit slower so that we can get a deeper feeling of the movement of the resonance of through our body and our connection with the universe. Feel where you are in your mind, your body, your spirit. Recognize the expansion and the connection that you now have. I will leave you to meditate.